In the heart of Houston, a city of diversity and resilience, a story unfolds, a story of unsung heroes, visionaries, and trailblazers, a story of Latinos rising in the digital age. From doctors saving lives in our hospitals to the artists painting the future and the entrepreneurs building legacies, these voices are leading the way, breaking boundaries and redefining what it means to be Latino in America. Our culture, our stories, our people, each one with a journey that touches the heart and inspires the soul. From the pages of history to the screens of today, VIVA Magazine Live continues its legacy of uplifting the Latino community and telling the stories that need to be heard. VIVA Magazine Live isn't just a show, it's a movement, a celebration of Latino excellence, and a call to action for the next generation to fulfill their hopes and dreams and become an active part of the Latino voice. Join us as we tell the stories that inspire, unite, and elevate. Together we can ensure these voices are heard loud and clear. We invite you to be part of something bigger. Support VIVA Magazine Live and make history with us. Support the vision and invest in our community.
Welcome back to VIVA Magazine Live Community Voices. I am honored today to introduce to you our esteemed panel of community leaders and advocates, and today they will be sharing essential insights on how we as a community can protect us and navigate ourselves through this tough immigration policies enacted by new presidential administration. So let me welcome Ms. Gracie Saenz. She's an attorney, community leader, and a community advocate, and Sergio Rira, president of LULA Council 4967. Welcome, you guys. I'm glad y'all could be here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Let's just get right into it. I want to bring some real life stories of what is happening today in our communities, especially Latino communities. The topic that I'd love to discuss, and I think it's essential for our community to know about, is the challenges facing our immigrant community, including the language barriers, the cultural adaptations, the employment struggles, not to mention the fear that they're experiencing today and their emotional journey. So these difficulties have become more severe under this new presidential administration, which has implemented harsh policies that feel dehumanizing to our community, and especially the children that are being or that may be separated from their families. And it just feels like there's a hatred being directed to the Latino community. So Gracie, I just want to get into it because you have a very compelling story to tell about your father many years ago. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I think it's important for us to recognize that this is not the first time that this has happened, this removal of Mexicanos and others from our country. Many people, unfortunately, do not know that it happened in the 30s during the Depression. My father was born here in Houston, Juan Guzman, in 1926. And in the 1933, he was 7 years old, he was removed with his family, his father, mother, and two other siblings.
Let me ask you this question, Gracie. So you say removed, that is different than deportation?
Yes, so deportation has hearings. Back in those days, they actually just would round them up and put them on railroad cars and then take them to the border. Some were fortunate enough to be taken all the way train-wise to Mexico City, but many of them were left at the border and made to walk back to their villages.
Oh my God. So what did the families that they left behind here feel? I mean,
at that time, my father had an older uncle and aunt who were able to stay. And of course, what you had is a huge loss of employment, of ability to have an education. I think my father always felt like he was had a stolen education because he was not able to learn English. He came back as an adult later on in his life, and we were all, then born here. But at that time, they left everything behind. You talk about reparations. People left their furnishings, their equipment, their homes, and who knows what happened to a lot of those belongings. They only could take 2 bags with them. Whatever they had, they could carry. And Blanca, tell you the truth, a lot of people do not realize that it was between 600,000 to 1 million that were removed from the southwest part of the United States. And it wasn't just here in Texas. It was throughout the Southwest in many respects. So that, again, is important to note. And then, of course, they brought them back because they needed workers for the war, and so you had the Bracero program. And then, of course, they wanted to remove us again. So in the 60s, they had Operation Wetback. So this is not unusual.
And it's happening again. It is. And todavía estamos en la lucha. We're still in the fight. You would think that by now this would be over, but it's not. So here we are again.
And I think a lot has to do with the fact that our history is not studied. We do not have that opportunity to learn about what has happened in our community and to our ancestors and in our past. So,
thank you very much for sharing that story, Bracy. I'm sure it was very devastating to your family and your dad at the time.
Unfortunately, Dad had 9 children, all of us here in Houston, and we are a success. Many of us have gone on to become professionals, had our own businesses and so forth, and we've grown our family. He died in 2023 at 97 years old. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Sergio, I have you here today because I think it's important for people to know that you are the president of LULAC Council 4967. And there was a press conference that I attended, which was a week and a half ago, I believe. So tell me, what is this the local chapters of LULAC, or is this national LULAC that has gotten behind this and denounce all of these enactments, immigration enactment policies that the new presidential administration has?
Yes, we held a press conference. It was a broad coalition of grassroots community leaders. And the press conference is very different from a rally. A press conference, you just bring in the leaders of the community who represent large groups of other organizations and members, and they come together to share their concerns and resist the policies from the current president. And this was supported by National LULAC. I reached out to them because my phone blew up for the past 2 weeks. Students, parents, whatever I would go to, restaurants, HEB would come up to me, calling me all the time, reporters, hey, what is LULAC doing? What is LULAC doing? I personally spoke to the president. He says, we support you in whatever you want to do. I said, we're going to hold a press conference. And with their full support, they supported us. And it was an amazing press conference, as you.
Yes, I was there, and you did have quite a bit of people. And, and I want to give a little bit of data to our viewers out there. There are 2.5 million foreign-born residents in Houston, in the Houston area, and that makes up 25% of the population. So the immigrants are very vital to several industries and the economy here in the Houston metro area, like, for instance, the construction industry, the landscaping industry, the hotels, the restaurants, the housekeeping and babysitting services, and even the oil and field. So, they're vital to our community, Sergio. So what is LULAC going to do about that? Or what plans do you see in the future for
Yes, National LULAC has just sent us some guidelines in terms of they're going to have national mega marches. They have some guidelines in terms of using the American flag, our religious icon, symbolism of La Virgen de Guadalupe. Cesar Chavez had them during his marches in the 60s. That is what they're guiding us in terms of what to do. This is going to be national. There's one that's planned in Dallas. and they're going to be in contact with other national LULAC council members and state directors in terms of coordinating. We're not doing this as a reaction. We're being very strategic about it because we know that what's happening right now is affecting, there's several groups that we tend to kind of overlook and not to make them less important. But you mentioned the foreign-born immigrants, but also there are legal residents here in the process. I'm talking about immigrants that are here in the process of becoming legal residents. There's several million, and they seem to be taken out of the equation. It's more on DACA, which is rightly so deserved to be fully processed and become U.S. citizens. But they do have a temporary status that was just removed by Trump, and also TPS. But there's another group, yes. Those folks have just been removed. So those that voted for him, he didn't honor their wishes. But there's a big group of folks who have children here who are in they're not DACA. These are folks that have been living here for 10 or 11 years in the process to become legal residents. They are frightful and they're afraid. So these folks have worked hard for many, many years and contribute. And these are the ones you're talking about. Let's not forget them. Those are the ones that are really on the front lines of being deported next to the criminals. And the one thing I do want to say is that the other side rhetoric is that they're mainly focusing on the hardcore criminals, and rightly so. Let's get them out of here. However, that is 76%. There's literally almost a quarter that are not hardcore criminals, and those are folks who have committed maybe a misdemeanor or something, a DUI or something, or just didn't figure out the process of the paperwork and missed a few deadlines. Those folks are already a 0.25% that are being deported. These are the folks that are good, mostly law-abiding people. Let's not forget them also.
Well, you mentioned mass deportation, and supposedly the presidential administration is going to deport him to Guantanamo Bay, where they held the 9/11 terrorists. Doesn't that doesn't that not allow for due process? The right to an attorney, with the right to make a phone call. These people are, not being allowed to exercise their rights.
Yeah, well, it was designed for terrorists. It was created. And if the president said there's 30,000 extra beds, why didn't they use them before this? Why didn't they house hardcore mass white supremacist murderers? Why didn't they house them there and free up some of our jails and penitentiaries? So not just do it for immigrants, but also for U.S. citizens who have committed mass murders, like in El Paso, in Uvalde. He got killed, but other folks in Las Vegas, these folks in Florida, Miami. Yeah.
So I just want to say that nearly half of Houston's children are living with one immigrant parent. So no wonder they have fear to go to school, because they're afraid when they come home their parents are not going to be here. So this is just such an unfortunate situation for our Latino community. It seems as though hatred is just being directed to our community.
And it's being modeled that way, Blanca. First of all, I also want to include the fact that I am also a member of LULAC Council 60 and very active in that respect, and really appreciate Dr. Lita and his leadership in the LULAC as well. But it's important for us to note that the immigration laws are broken. And a lot of the blame goes back to our lawmakers. They should be responsible in fixing them. They should have done it many, many years ago. And it's almost like running a red light that has been broken, and then you get the ticket. Right. Yep. And so I really feel that it's important for people to know that this is not necessarily all falling on the backs of immigrants. It's our own.
As well. It's right. Okay, so thank you very much for being on our show today. We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for our exclusive sponsor for the show, Your Legal Team for Life, Gonzalez Labu. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Viva Magazine Live Community Voices. Today we have two new speakers that have come in, and that's Sylvia Mintz, attorney, immigration attorney, and Cesar Espinosa, who is the executive director of FIEL, Familias Inmigrantes y Estudiantes en la Lucha, FIEL, families and students in the fight, right? So Sylvia, well, I want to get right to it. Tell me since you're an immigration attorney and you've been that for how many years?
17 years.
17 years as an immigration attorney. So tell me, what can the immigrant community do to protect themselves from these harsh policies that are being enacted by this new presidential administration?
Well, there are many things that they can do. They need to prepare a plan. They need to be informed. They need to select where they get their news, because they don't want to believe everything that is out on social media. And also they need to seek advice from an attorney that can tell them if they have any relief based on their facts.
Right. What they do, I think that a lot of the immigrant communities think that, or the immigrant community feels and thinks that they don't have any rights, but they do have rights, don't they?
Of course. So everybody who resides in the United States has constitutional rights. Those are not taken away just because you are undocumented.
Right.
And it's important that we share that knowledge with everybody who needs to know that the constitutional rights of due process stay with everybody who resides in the U.S., regardless of their immigration status.
Right. Because they are inherent human rights, right? Yes.
And they are on the Constitution. So we have to make sure that they know that if immigration comes to the door at their house, they have the right to not open. And the officers only get to go in if they have a judicial warrant. Okay. The judicial warrant has to be proper. So it has to have the date, the address, the name, and it has to be signed by a judge, and it needs to delineate where is it that they are searching. If they don't have a judicial warrant, they cannot go in. Just a notice to appear, which is the charging instrument in immigration law, is not enough for the officers to go in.
To walk in their house.
Yes.
Que entren en la casa, ¿verdad?
Yes. And of course, they have to know also that if they are stopped, they don't have to talk about their immigration status or how they enter the United States. Of course, they have the obligation to identify themselves here in Texas, but that's it. They don't have to talk about that. And another thing that is very important, Blanca, is that people know that they can continue to seek the medical help that they need and that their kids need.
Right.
Even though Governor Abbott ordered for every health facility to ask the immigration question and ask what is their legal status, they don't have the obligation to answer that question, and the health facilities shouldn't decline the medical help just because the people don't answer the questions.
Right. Well, that is very good information. Y esa es muy buena información que necesita saber la comunidad inmigrante. So that is very good information that the immigrant community needs to know, including all the Latinos, so that they can tell all their family members what their rights are. I understand, Sylvia, que y'all were in a Know Your Rights conference that was hosted by the Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia. Tell me about that. Did they, was there a lot of people there? There seemed to be when I saw
there was a lot of people there, and actually I applaud the Congresswoman because it's one of the few politicians in Harris County taking really the step to inform the community. We have to remember that we need to support the undocumented community in these trying times, and it was a very well attended Know Your Rights conference.
That's right. And as a Latino community, we need to come together. The Latinos that are born in United States and the Latinos that are immigrants from Mexico or other countries, we need to unite as a one solid community and move forward. And I think that makes us much stronger.
I agree. The Latino community needs to be united, but also the entire community, because we have to remember that this is a country founded by immigrants, and everybody here comes from somewhere.
Right.
So we have to remember that. And we have to remember that even though we might be U.S. citizens, we all have in our close network somebody who is undocumented and that might be at risk of being deported. So this is not a fight only for the undocumented. This is the fight for everyone in the United States to make sure that the constitutional rights and the laws are protected for everybody.
That's right. Okay. Thank you very much, Sylvia, for being here. So let me get back to Cesar Espinosa, who is the director of Fiel. There was a big march, a protest right down on 59 over the Montrose Bridge. Can you tell us about that and who organized that, Cesar?
Well, number one, thank you for having us,
Yes,
and thank you for
absolutely.
keeping this conversation going. We think, I've worked with Sylvia for many years, and the more I get to know her, the more I know. Because apparently we started Fiel, and she started being a practicing attorney 17 years ago too.
Yes,
So
yes.
the more we know, right?
That's how long Fiel has been around.
For about
right?
17
Helping,
years, and we worked on
families.
cases together, and a lot of people don't know that because people see what they see in the street, but they don't
Right.
know that there's so much work going on behind
Right.
the scenes.
Yes.
One of the biggest cases we worked on was a little girl who was 8 years old who was ordered deported without her mom, and Sylvia stepped in and she provided the family with legal resources to help them at the time. So
That is the fear that children have right now.
absolutely.
I mean, we've been fighting that since
Yes.
years, and now we're still fighting. Estamos en la misma lucha.
En la misma
we're still
lucha.
in the same fight.
Sí. Y so este domingo, this last Sunday, we had a huge march, a peaceful march.
Yes, it
of
was
over
peaceful.
20,000 people.
Yeah.
And I'm happy and proud to say that, all the naysayers were saying that immigration was going to show up and that there was going to be violence. And not only did immigration not show up, but even though we had 20,000 people, there was 0 arrests. Why? Because we embodied what our community is, which is a community that's strong, that is present, that is vibrant. And at the same time, we're also a community who just wants to be here and be seen and
Yes.
be heard.
That's right.
And so we're having that. We're having subsequent events. We're having one this Wednesday with Trey the Truth to show unity amongst different communities in Houston.
Right.
And we're also having one for the first time ever. We're going to march in Pasadena. Pasadena community wants to come out and they want to make their voice heard. Pasadena is 75% Latino.
Yes, it is a big Latino
and we don't
community
get the
over
respect we deserve out there.
Yes.
So it's time to step up. One of the things that overwhelmed us this last March is that over 75% of the attendees we predict were second and third generation Latinos.
They were young.
They were young
millennials.
people
Yeah,
and
yes.
people that wanted to be there
Yes.
to say, my parents deserve respect, and I, as a U.S. citizen, deserve that same respect. Earlier, you were alluding to the fact that, we all have to stick together. Absolutely,
Yeah.
because we've already seen in other parts of the country where citizens are getting picked up.
that's right.
And we can't ignore the U.S. history where in the past, through operations like Operation Wetback and things
Yeah.
like that, citizens were deported from this country. So it's not out of the question, but we are here to support each other, to uplift each other, and to make sure we protect each other.
That's right. I'm totally with you on that. And I think that these harsh policies that have been enacted by this presidential administration causes our community to unite as a whole. U.S. Latinos that are born here and immigrants that come from other countries, and including the Black community and other cultures, that we all unite and be one, and we cannot allow this to happen. So I just thank y'all for being here. It's important that our community know that they have the rights, like Sylvia said earlier, that they have rights even though they may be undocumented or they may be immigrants, or we just cannot let this happen. We just cannot. So we got to move forward. And I know that I'm going to ask you one other question. Do you have funding, federal funding? Because I know that they were trying to revoke some of the nonprofit funding to
Correct.
these organizations that were helping immigrants. Do you
We don't receive any federal funding. We're community-based, community-funded, and we remain that way so that we can be here for the community. So I know a lot of organizations are struggling. So the other plea is to support those organizations, and more importantly, support each other's businesses. Right now, we see a lot of businesses turning their backs on the Latino community.
That's right.
And we have to go. I've been in the East End. I was in the East End all this week, and we went to some of our favorite places, and we were so disheartened. They were empty.
Yes.
And in part it's because of fear. So we hope that if people are able to, if people are willing to, that we support one another, because even in those ways, if you don't want to attend a march, go eat at your favorite taqueria. They're mom and pop shops that need your help more than ever right now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Cesar and Sylvia. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to hear from our generous sponsor, Gonzalez Law Group, your legal team for life.
The three main philosophies at the Gonzalez Law Group is do everything you can to win, finish the case off as fast as possible, and treat people how you want to be treated. That's why we are your legal team for life.
I want to thank our distinguished panel for being on Viva Magazine Live Community Voices, where we discuss community issues affecting the Latino community. So thank you, panel. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, Cesar Espinosa. So stay safe, stay informed, y hasta luego, Houston.